Hi, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I wish you love. I wish love would fill you, hug you, dazzle you, and if necessary, drag you into a world where trust and love live. So, not blind trust, more of a like an astute and aware kind of trust that fills you with a can-do attitude. So, yeah, I'm dreaming. I know, but why not? So this is actually the look-see, not real Valentine's Day. It was yesterday, but everybody's not well. So, and I got way behind. So I hope this gets out there today. In this month's look-see, I decided to share at a little more personal level. I'm often asked how I manage to see the world the way I do. And the implication is that I see things differently, but I don't think I see things all that differently. I just see what I see. And it always surprises me that other people don't see what I see because it's all right there. Um, I think I think people are afraid to see, or sometimes they don't have permission to see, or they don't have permission to admit what they see to themselves or to anybody else. So I hope this look-see will have some ideas and some permissions in it for you, so that you can see through the veils of propaganda and lies, because there's a lot of that floating around, and go right to the core causes that drive the surface stuff we're watching. And I'll tell you what, those core causes are us. It's us driving everything. So, of course, we're often caught in a lot of foolishness and crazy thinking, but I'm loving the craziness that's rolling in every direction because it's going to make a lot of people wake up and pay attention to what really matters, what really makes sense. And we are some pretty smart and capable people. So let's look at what's going on and what is coming our way. I started this month's look-see by asking for a keyword, and I got the word happenstance. Happenstance, Happenstance. Now, I haven't heard anyone use that word in ages, and I wasn't really sure what to say about it. So I did a little searching, and I found that there are companies, books, footwear, theories, and even a whiskey named Happenstance. So leaving all of that aside, the word itself refers to an unexpected event that happens naturally as a result of random forces coming together. Happenstance means something that happens by pure chance. The word is used to describe something like a once-in-a-lifetime event triggered by causes that just happen to occur spontaneously all at the same time and are not likely to reoccur. So as I thought about the keyword and what's happening in the world, I wondered if we could apply the word to the reaction to the Epstein files. I would certainly classify those as a once-in-a-lifetime event that will have unexpected results because of the information coming out of those files. What is interesting about this line of thought is that happenstance is a word that refers to something fortunate, like good luck or positive outcomes. And a good analogy of happenstance would be when lightning strikes, it knocks down a tree, and then you'll find a pot of gold or something of great value in the roots of the tree. It's like a blessing in disguise that you don't really recognize until later. So perhaps the chance situation or unexpected event that's coming our way will reveal something that is a key to our ongoing movement toward a whole new and wonderful world. Fingers crossed. So now let's look at our world. Number one, I have been heavily focused this month on what is happening in the US, and I thought I would share a few things about general perception of the big issues facing us. Now, you've probably heard me say this a half a dozen times now, but I learned the importance of avoiding premature decisions while I was working with Dr. William Levengood in the lab. He was researching the cause and the physics of crop circles and animal mutilations. And we figured that out. So I kept trying to come up with explanations that fit the data before we figured it out. And one day he said, look, stop trying to make the evidence fit your theories. Just keep exploring, experimenting, and collecting data, and eventually the answer will fall right in your lap. When that happens, everything you've learned falls perfectly into alignment. You'll see the whole pattern, and you'll learn something about nature and where the information fits in relation to the whole. So, applying that lesson to today's world, I stopped trying to decide what was really going on in Washington, D.C., and just started observing and collecting information. This approach has allowed me to swing wildly from one side of the debate to the other, while actually examining the reasons given by different people and the feelings they created in me. So why do I do this when it creates a lot of internal churn? Yeah, I do it because I've discovered several things, including the fact that Dr. Levengood was right. First, there's a freedom, the freedom of not having to pick a side and then constantly defend it. Then there is the fact that you can save a lot of energy and worry by adopting an open position of deep observation. So when you do this, you open the door to deep insights and intuitions that will come to you in the course of digesting the information and the intense feelings that come your way. So it's important to note that holding an open position does not mean that you are a wet sponge, or that you're indecisive, or that you're betraying anyone or any movement, or are going to cause yourself a problem later. In fact, quite the contrary. You'll be able to relax a bit and say to yourself, let's see how this plays out. Other benefits are that you'll be comfortable talking with anybody, regardless of their views, and you'll learn how to hold a space for what you want. Holding space is an exercise in power. It is knowing what you want and acknowledging that you want your team to win and being ready for that win without being obnoxious or acting like a know-it-all. Holding space allows you to hold multiple, even contradictory positions simultaneously. Doing this keeps you aware and alert to where the actual energy is going. It allows you to be graceful, yet realistic, honest, yet understanding of other people's positions, and firm in your knowing, yet flexible. You'll be able to enjoy the present moment and yet be ready to deal with whatever outcome is coming at you. So holding contradictory information, which is sometimes called holding paradoxical positions, that allows you to be realistic and ready for things to go against what you want. However, because you're aware and alert, things do not become catastrophic for you. Not only are you prepared for every contingency, because you've been watching where the energies are actually flowing, you begin to see what is taking shape and what you will need to deal with in the future. To sum up, drawing premature conclusions is a mistake. because all the evidence is not in. All the plays have not been made. And when you stay open, you'll be surprised at how your perception and understanding of a situation deepens and evolves. And right now, we are in a phase of deepening and of evolution. So let's allow that to continue with a sense of like adventure and some curiosity. Number 2. In my recent tarot reading at the beginning of February, I mentioned what I was just saying here above, that I've allowed myself to refrain from making a once and for all final decision about Donald Trump and whether he's working for us or leading us straight into the arms of the global deep state. I don't want to make a decision because all the evidence is not in. Once you tell yourself that you know who's doing what and why they're doing it, what's happening and where things are going, you end up thinking you've got it all figured out. The whole problem is solved, and you stop paying attention. You stop collecting evidence. Trump and our situation are neither resolved nor helped if we stop paying attention. The evidence that I see at this point is that Trump is dealing with a lot of issues, some major and some minor, but he remains focused intensely on one thing, and that one thing is taking down the globalist deep state. He is slowly but steadily working to dismantle their agreements and their structures that were all designed to set up a one world government in which they controlled all the trade, all the money, the power, and the people. Trump wants a world where he can make deals and watch people prosper. He wants beauty and elegance, not rundown shabbiness. He wants peace, not war, although he will do what he must. If doing what he must includes threatening and a little bit of bombing, so be it. But he doesn't go overboard with the bombing angle. He's not overtly aggressive. A mature person is able to weigh the consequences and the mess they may create, and they will move ahead with their plans, including the willingness to clean up any messes. So his approach reminds me of my relationship with the elves here on the farm. They kept encouraging us to stop using poisonous sprays. We stopped. A few years later, one small corner of the vineyard became overrun with weeds. It was totally out of control. I complained to them, saying, "Look what your advice has created." And they said, "Spray it with a weed killer." I was shocked. Like, OMG, they had been nagging us to stop spraying poisons for 3 years, and now they were contradicting themselves. When I said as much, their response was, sometimes you have to do what you must. And you now know how to repair the damage from those sprays. So spray in order to regain control of that corner and then fix the damage. It was a lesson in common sense and flexibility. It was advice that implied, don't be so one-sided. They were not asking me to abandon my position of organic gardening. They were telling me to do what I had to do and deal with the consequences, which meant some rejuvenation would be needed. So Trump is dealing with a monster. That monster grew out of decades of terrible leadership, mountains of distraction and disinformation spawned by mainstream news, and an entire planetary infrastructure based on lies, scarcity, and a hierarchy of control that completely ignored us, the people. I don't think the question is whether Trump is a hero or is leading us to the slaughter. Sometimes I call it leading us to the squeeze gates. I've come to see that the real question is whether he will win the battle or not. And what I see at the moment is that he cannot win without us, the people. Sadly, that is why lots of people are being paid to protest, to create uproar, to distract and divide us. I would love for Trump to be the hero in the ongoing saga of the US government versus the globalist deep state. I would love to see him implement and succeed with his tariffs and fair trade instead of the free trade that guts every economy. Not only would I personally love to see some kind of normal or like a new normal be established, I would love to see an end to the corruption, the disinformation, and the manipulation going on. I want people to reap some of the benefits of their hard work in a future that's beautiful, one that's interesting, and one that is secure. I'm holding space for that. And I continue watching intently for signs that things are going in another direction. I don't see a whole lot of that, but I continue to watch in case. Even if Trump wins, he may have to compromise in some areas. However, a 75% success rate is better than the 100% capture we have been living in for so many years. What will be the deciding factor in his success? As I said, the critical factor is us and our willingness to communicate and to act in ways that send a clear message of either cooperation or no thanks. So keep holding that space for us to move into a beautiful new world. Number 3, the UK. The UK, the UK, can I say it again, is coming apart completely. And what I keep seeing is that no one is going to step up to help restore order there because almost all countries want the city of London to be taken down. If that means taking down the entire country, well, that's the price of freedom from deep state control. The people of England should be thinking about what they want in a government. When I look ahead, I don't see a king and a queen anymore. That's a big, big change for the English people. They love their royals, but it looks like they're moving to a whole new governance structure. Number 4, China is on the cusp of massive change. Xi Jinping made a decision to remove 2 people. One was his top general, Zhang Yuxia, who was also his childhood friend and best supporter. The other was Liu Zhenli, chief of the Joint Staff. This move by Xi was a major mistake. The situation in China was already tense at best, more like a tinderbox. And they were waiting for a spark. And I think Xi provided that. Zhang Yuxia was greatly respected and even loved by others in the military. He was the vice chairman of the CMC, Central Military Commission, a powerful group that Xi Jinping has been slowly getting rid of one by one. I think there were 7 people on the CMC, and now there's 1 or 2 left, and Xi is one of them. So our mainstream news has not said much about the situation that's worth reading or listening to, but in tuning in to what's happening around Xi, I saw a couple of things that were of surprising interest. One was some kind of drama around Xi's wife. She seemed kind of, I'll say, spoiled and demanding, more like a social climber than a first lady. Yeah, I was thinking, wow, how much further can you climb when you're already the first lady? Anyway, I wondered if Xi was listening to his wife instead of his military generals and advisors. Another insight was the realization that in the same way that tens of thousands of Americans left farms and moved to cities over the first 50 years of the 1900s, Chinese people did the same thing, but over a much shorter time span at the very end of the 1900s and beginning of the 2000s. And just like Americans, they completely went after the money, allowing it to replace their connection to Mother Nature. As a result, the people are now in a panic because they're in a serious recession. People are not being paid their wages or salaries. Businesses are closing without warning. People show up to work and the place is closed, doors are locked, it's empty. Whoa. And many people are leaving China if they can afford to get out. President Xi is ignoring all of this, possibly because he's focused on setting himself up as president for life so he can pass the reins of control to his young son, I think being encouraged by his wife. However, it doesn't look like he will succeed with this plan. In the meantime, Beijing has been surrounded and sealed by the military, and Xi has activated the Beijing police force to protect him. Xi has not left Beijing for over 3 months, and this is the time of year that he normally does a lot of traveling. The talk is that he doesn't dare leave because he might not be able to get back in. After the uproar that resulted from Xi's removal of Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli, Xi made calls to Putin in Russia and Trump in the US. But nothing was reported about those calls other than that they lasted about an hour. It's likely Xi was seeking support and letting Trump and Putin know that he was still in charge, but that's questionable. He's not inspected his troops, something that he always did personally. He doesn't come out in public very much. I think he came out for a little walk during their New Year. And he appears to be afraid of his military officers. This doesn't look like it ends well for Xi. Number 5. I was listening to a YouTube video in which there was a discussion about UFOs and extraterrestrials. I was really only kind of half listening. And I suddenly saw that Trump was going to announce that we were not alone in the universe and that people from other planets are here on Earth. Some of us already know this for a fact, but Trump was making this announcement for the same reason that he invaded, quote unquote, invaded Venezuela. It was a move designed to foil the deep state. The Venezuela affair was a preemptive move designed to avoid any possibility that the deep state would get control of that country and their oil. The U.S. is already dealing with problematic cartels all around Mexico, Central American countries, and Colombia. Getting control of Venezuela prevents them from having total access to these areas. Such access would be a true military advantage for enemies. Nobody's ever been able to get their people across the ocean to get us. But coming from the south, that's a weak spot. Anyway, The ET announcement also looked like a preemptive move, like it was designed to cut off the deep state's ability to launch a fake alien invasion. This is a risky move for Trump. The last guy who thought about announcing that we are not alone was assassinated in Dallas. Number 6. Staying with the subject of the cartels for just a moment, I have looked at them and their organizations a couple of times, and I always get the same information. They started out just handling drugs, money, and guns for various powerful groups. But they have grown and developed a taste for power. They keep thinking they want to have something of our own. So they've been moving slowly and stealthily toward setup of a chunk of northeastern Mexico and southwestern Texas as their country. They especially have their eye on the gold that Texas has accumulated. Their network of underground tunnels is extensive, and that area is a true weak spot for Texas and America. Number 7. Somebody is making a big effort to disrupt and divide the MAGA camp. Much of this disruption is being created by reporters and influencers who see the world through an immature lens that was crafted sometime in the past. They are watching Trump's moves and comparing them to the way things used to be and what has always been done. But look at the results of the way things used to be. That's how we got into the mess we are in today. And I think we deserve something better. In listening to some of these reporters, it's obvious they hate Trump, and they never miss a chance to make him look bad. Maybe others are trying to be helpful with such comparisons, but they don't seem to have any vision of a better future. They keep looking backwards, like they're trying to reestablish the order we used to have. So we, the people, have a good future, but it will take a lot of work to create it. A good analogy for where we are at is trying to remodel a house and finding that the floor joists have been eaten by termites. A cosmetic do-over is just not going to work. We are going to have to go right down to the foundation and rebuild. That's where we're at in the U.S. Number 8. We are going to celebrate 250 years of American government this summer. I see a situation in which we enjoy that celebration in July, but it's followed by some type of serious chaos in August. I'm hoping that the celebration will be that we have finally broken away from the control of the globalists. The U.S. will be ours. I'm hoping that the reason for the chaos will be that we have started the process of rebuilding. It will be a huge mistake to rebuild in the image of the globalist empire. It will also be a mistake to ignore the fact that we are like the older brother in a family, and we have a certain kind of responsibility to be mature and demonstrate a new level of caring and cooperation among ourselves and with other nations. As we rebuild, what is the one question we should keep in mind? It is, what are the basic tasks of a government? The answer? A government exists for 3 reasons. 1, to protect its citizens. 2, to maintain good communication and relationships with its neighbors. And 3, to assemble an army that can defend the people if necessary. A government becomes ineffective and the entire civilization starts to bog down the minute government tries to micromanage things. If government takes over responsibility for education or medicine or religion, finance, housing, science, business, agriculture, or any other sector of an economy, that downward spiral begins. People seeking power and control over others are quickly attracted to a burgeoning governmental power structure. They are people who want to be at the top. However, hierarchy only works if the top layer serves the bottom layer. In our world, the top layer is exploiting the bottom layer. And this is why the rebuilding will be necessary. So save your energy, MAGA people. You're going to need it by August when the party is over. Number 9. Over the past few weeks, I listened to a couple of videos that were very interesting, enough to get me to copy their link so I could go back to it and re-listen if I wanted the details of what they were saying. But when I went back to watch them a few weeks later, not only had they been taken down, the account had been closed. Surprised and thinking there must be a mistake, I did a search for the title and found that Dr. Steve Turley had originally put out those videos, and somebody had obviously copied and posted them. I was disturbed by this, and I just wanted to say that each of us is essentially creative. And we have that creativity right in our core. That's us, right to the core of our being. There's no need to copy someone else's work as if it were your own. This isn't high school or college where you'll get a report card that gives you pass or fail grades. This is real life, and you need to make a living for the rest of your life. So don't start off on the wrong foot by copying someone else's and acting like it's yours. You're only shortchanging yourself. Make your original contribution right from your core creative self. Find your own creative heart and get your juices going. Speak for yourself. Someone is waiting to hear your voice. So that's why you need to speak for yourself. Number 10. There have been a lot of reports about the situation involving Nancy Guthrie, but they all strike me as odd, almost not real. From the very first time I heard that she had been kidnapped, something in me said, this whole thing doesn't feel right. As of this writing, I don't think she's been found, and I don't think it was a kidnapping. I've never watched Savannah Guthrie on TV or anywhere else. In fact, I never heard of her until this whole thing. But I have the impression that the kidnapping message was twofold, maybe even threefold, and was not just about her mother. When I tune in, the same three things keep coming up. One, it feels like a blatant message to Savannah having to do with something she knows or some information she has access to. I'm not sure what that was. 2, it's a message to all journalists and reporters that they should be careful about what they report on. And 3, the whole thing strikes me as an attempt to create a big, distracting news story that would edge out the stories and facts coming out of the Epstein files. Now, I'm not sure if Savannah Guthrie has any connection to or mention in the Epstein files, but I didn't think so. It just looked like a pure threat being handed to all news people to watch what they say. And I don't think it's going to eclipse the Epstein files. Those are pretty big. Number 11. Speaking of the Epstein files, it was 30 years ago, 30 years, that I started my very first blog. One of the early pieces I wrote about was the children being kidnapped and used for various rituals involving sacrifice and other horrors. The response to this blog, oh my, was a whole lot of angry, vicious people accusing me of making things up, of being a sick, deranged, twisted nutcase trying to get attention. Of course, I dropped the whole story. People were just not ready to hear the truth. So 30 years have gone by, and thousands more children have suffered and been killed or sold for who knows what purposes. Why? So a few people could stay in their comfort zone and blast their righteous attitudes at anyone who knocks on the door of their consciousness? Everything that was once dismissed as conspiracy theory is now being seen as real. It's all a conspiracy, and most people do not understand even the fringes of that conspiracy. We are in a fight for our lives on this planet, and very few know what that means. It's time to wake up to the fact that reality is not what we have been mind-washed into thinking. Everything about the system we are in is corrupt. Let that sink in. Number 12. In my family, my personal family, we have had our share of heated discussions between various members over the actions of ICE in Minnesota. And I want to share something that I learned and that felt really quite helpful. So on one side, there are the younger ones in their early 30s. They've never served in the military, and they don't have children. They are completely on the side of the liberals. On the other side are the older ones. They're in their 50s and 60s. The older ones have not only served in the military, they have been in serious situations that were out of control. Lawlessness was out of control, and their lives were in danger. They also have children that they care deeply about, and they are on the side of conservatives. So as the arguments waxed and waned, I recalled my early years as a fiery, liberal, bra-burning supporter of the Democrat Party, even though I was never interested in politics or voting. That was when I was in my 20s and 30s. Then I grew up. I realized that liberalism just didn't work. It was a nice idea, but reality was different. Lots of us adopted the liberal ideology when we were young for very youthful reasons. We needed to differentiate ourselves from our parents and show that we were going to do things differently. We didn't want to work so hard either. We wanted life to be easier. We wanted the rules to soften, if not go away, and we believed that we could do what we wanted and dictate the outcomes. We were so very idealistic. However, as we moved further and further into the real world, we discovered that life demands a realistic, practical approach. Life was ruthlessly honest and didn't care about our ideology or liberal attitudes. It didn't care whether we broke the rules or not. It simply brought us the reality and left us to ponder what went wrong. Gradually, we let go of youthful fantasies and liberal rights and ideas. Gradually, love for our children became the priority. Work became a path to doing something good for both the self and others. And slowly, with some argument and embarrassment, we made decisions and choices that were becoming more conservative as each decade went by. Today's shock and outrage caused by the shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis remind me of the shock and the outrage caused by the Kent State shootings in 1970. It is clear to me that if you put yourself in a position of danger, things could get out of hand. If you do, who's to blame? What other ways could you have made a difference in the world besides running around protesting? The lesson? There are limits and consequences to everything. There are no exceptions to that rule. And what is the bottom line in all of this reflection? It's that it is neither necessary nor helpful to try to tell young liberals that they are wrong or not seeing the world correctly. That just makes them dig in their heels more deeply. It makes it harder for them to move beyond the dreams of a more perfect world. They need mostly a little time to grow, to experience a little more. They need encouragement to channel that desire for a better world into some kind of work that produces that better world. When given time, they will often move naturally to a more balanced and centered approach to life. Number 13, and I'm going to close with this. Think back to your early years as a teen and a young adult. What assumptions did you have about the world and reality? Now look around at your world today and how you have changed since those teen years. For many people, their perception of reality is much broader, deeper, and more detailed. It can look like a whole different world, like you're in a whole different place. A different world has taken shape around you. So now, imagine that the population, the whole population of Earth is still a young teen in terms of their development, their understanding of reality. How might their view of existence expand and deepen if they were to grow up, wake up, and move into full maturity as a planetary group? What might they know that they just didn't know earlier? Think about that as you move through this month. And that's it for this look-see. For those who are watching or listening for the first time, the look-see is a brief look at what's happening in our world and where the trends are headed. Reality is not fixed. It's very dynamic. It changes according to what we're doing with consciousness. Nothing becomes real until we make it real. We make a choice. We take some kind of action. We put something together or take it apart. Those decisive actions are what determine the outcome and the timeline. Of course, once we set something in motion, it does take a lot of effort to make a change or get things going in another direction. And that's exactly the reason for looking ahead. If we don't like the direction things are going, we can make appropriate changes in a timely way or prepare for what may look inevitable. If we see something we like, we can put some conscious energy on that and help it along. It's important to look around and assess what is happening. Where are we going? How are we seeing what's happening? So that we know whether or not we need to do something different. So thank you so much for listening. Keep your eyes open and your wits about you. Have a wonderful month. Take care.